The next speaker is Dr. Neha Mehta. Dr. Neha Mehta, if you can please unmute yourself and also on your video, and I would read your biography and introduce you to the participants. So next up we have Dr. Neha Mehta. She is an assistant professor at the School of Chemical Engineering, University of Birmingham, United Kingdom. Dr. Neha areas of expertise and research interest lies in the fields of all energy systems analysis, environmental sustainability, circular economy, and waste to wealth energy pathways. In her research, she has used a wide range of research methods, including life cycle analysis, techno-economic assessment, and material flow analysis. Ladies and gentlemen, such a privilege, such an honor to have Dr. Neha Mehta in our midst today. Dr. Neha, the floor is yours. Please feel free to share a slide. Thank you for honoring the invitation.
Thanks, Adenike. Thanks for the introduction, and thanks to all the participants. Thanks, Adenike. Thank you once again. And the whole topic of my presentation today is how life cycle assessment or sustainability analysis could be used for energy transitions. I would like to start with just a short introduction about my university. Well, we are based in Birmingham, and we are with about 8,000 staff and 38,000 students, we think recruit and compete worldwide. And School of Chemical Engineering is ranked 70th in the QS Global Rankings. So, why life cycle assessment? The most important part of why any energy or any transitions or even circular economy application should use life cycle assessment is because it's a very standard framework, and it's one of the most important frameworks that came after, I think, around 1990s, when the development was going on both in civil engineering side, as in how the building should be more sustainable, but also in food packaging side and food production side, on how uh, drinks or fast moving consumer goods could be more sustainable. So it's one of the most standardized framework and has come from ISO 14044 and 14040. And as a tool, it actually sits at the interface of science, engineering, and policy. So any process or any product that you would like to do sustainability analysis of, you would need life cycle assessment for that. So what does it entail? Well, it entails measuring all the raw materials or quantities of all the raw materials needed, and then all the energy that has been used in the process, and later at the downstream how the product was used and reused, and then at end of life what were the products or waste that were left to the environment, and those products or waste or byproducts could be left to water or land or air. So in essentiality, I'm trying to say that it goes from raw material extraction to the end of life cycle management as a process. And what does it give you as an answer? Well, it gives the answer in form of how much is the greenhouse gas emissions due to a process, how much is water footprint of a process, how much is uh, land use change, even, like, for example, if you are switching from a forest to a industry, then a land use change would occur. So how land use change is going to affect the process, and in total there could be about 15 to 16 indicators depending on the method you use for life cycle assessment. It also includes how personal or how toxic a substance could be for human life, etc. So after talking about what all it includes, I just want to spend just one more slide on the background, and then will I take to case studies. So the two most important types of life cycle assessment studies include consequential and attributional studies. Attributional studies are very less complex and have less modeling uncertainty. They are mostly used for checking compliance. However, if you want to understand how a full system approach takes place, how the whole system is going to affect the environment, then you would need to do more consequential elements. So what does it differ between attributional and consequential? Well, attributional is just you look at the one process. You looked at, let's say, manufacturing plastic bottles, that's all. But when you include consequential approaches, you look at the other processes as well, which could have some consequence of from that, let's say, production of plastic bottle. Have you used other oil materials or other processes that are affecting the whole process? So consequential approaches goes beyond one process. They include two or three different processes and combine them to form an answer, and that's why they tend to be more complex and more uncertain as well, but they can be used for more strategic decision making and system level approaches. So, my whole talk today is about how life cycle assessment studies could be used for sustainable energy transitions, and in particular for heating and cooling. And why heating and cooling? Well, the reason for that is about 50% of the global energy consumption and more than 40% of the global energy related carbon dioxide emissions occur due to heating and cooling. Cooling demand is only going to increase more. Most of the regions are facing extreme climate events, but also changing weather patterns, which means cooling demand is increasing in almost every region and has one of the highest amount of increase that is going to come across different sectors in the coming years. Focusing on the UK, about 25% of the GHG emissions are from domestic heating. So, how I have used life cycle assessment for this approach? Well, what if we were to switch from gas boilers to heat pumps and reduce the need for natural gas that is currently used in UK housing? About 80% of houses in the UK use natural gas. Can we measure how much will be the potential reduction in greenhouse gas emissions? So the first case study is in biomethane for decarbonization of heat. If the gas boilers were to be replaced by biomethane, then how would it work? Well, we looked at anaerobic digestion followed by pyrolysis for Northern Ireland, and look how biomethane could be used for decarbonization of heat and what will be the impacts of it. And our studies were actually published in Climate Change Committee and provided recommendations, and we found out that the biogas potential for Northern Ireland was about 3,500 gigawatt hours. And if we were to use biomethane for all of the current heating demand, then about 80% of the heating demand in, not the heating demand, the natural gas demand could be met by biomethane in Northern Ireland. So that's one study. Second study I would like to talk is about heat pumps deployment. So we have been studying on how different heat pumps have climate change potential uh, in different regions, and we found out that the environmental sustainability benefits of the use of heat pumps are very much related to the local characteristics, as in how much green is the electricity grid itself, what is the ambient temperature, and the amount of difference in the temperature that is needed for working for heat pumps. And our literature review showed that about 80 to 85% emissions actually happen during space heating, that is during the operations phases itself. So we looked then extended this study to understand how heat pumps deployment could take place in the UK. And we worked out that, and we did the study only for terrace, semi detached, and detached houses. We didn't consider flats for deployment of heat pumps and replacing natural gas boilers, because we thought that flats would be more difficult, as normally they are rented and also have less space. We also looked at how heat pump coefficient could be calculated for each housing type separately, and how uptake of heat pumps could be considered as 5%, 20%, and 40%. Looking at the dwelling type, the the size of the houses was taken as a average for all of the England houses, and varied from 65 meter square for covered converted flats to about 149 meter square for detached houses. And we also calculated how different heat loss coefficients would work. And when we looked at the results, we found out that the seasonal performance factor varied from 1.83 to 1.9. Now, what is seasonal factor or performance factor? So, if you burn something, there is always some efficiency loss. If you are using an energy device, you would not be able to take all of the energy out of it if you are combusting it, right? Like the boilers would have an efficiency of about 84%, which means that if you have used one kilojoule of natural gas, you would get 0.84 kilojoule of natural gas as energy in heating the house. However, for heat pumps, it's actually up to 2 to 3 times. So seasonal performance factor means that if you install a heat pump for the whole year, given all these conditions that I shared before as in assumptions, you would have an efficiency of 200 of about 200%, as in 180 to 190%. Um, which means that inherently heat pumps are much more efficient than gas boilers. And the reason for that is heat pumps only transmit heat. They transfer heat from, let's say, air source or ground source and heat the house. They don't really generate heat. Um, and then we also compared the percentage variation in emissions, and we found out that up to 40% uptake of heat pumps could lead to about 32% of reduction in carbon dioxide emissions. We only looked at Birmingham, Manchester, Oldham, and Warwick area, and the reason was it was quite a short study. It was just 3 months, and the study is now actually published and was done by one of the student in our group. His name is Roshan Ayer, so I'm just giving him a shout now. And all thanks to him, he worked really well. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Neha, for that wonderful presentation. I have a quick question about
Mm.
you shared like a case study, and I
Mm.
would like to elaborate a little bit more on on that case study on biomethane. I think the case study is on biomethane. Yeah, biomethane, and particularly what I'm interested in is to know the integration of anaerobic digestion and pyrolysis you mentioned, and I
Yeah.
would love to understand more about the efficiency of this combined approach. So when you integrate the anaerobic digestion and the pyrolysis, and what's the role of the digest state in the pyrolysis stage? And how are the outputs, like, you talked about the outputs like the syngas, the biooil, and the biochar. How are they
Mm.
utilized, or are they valorized within the its decarbonization framework? And most importantly, important to the theme of the conference is how scalable is this model for rural or farming communities in the global south? So I can take the question again. So I'm looking at like
No, no, it's
how.
fine. It's fine. I
Okay.
wrote it. I can answer. Wait.
Uh, thank
Yeah. So let's just start from the place of anaerobic digestion and pyrolysis, and why they are combined, etc. So the reason why we looked at biomethane production along with pyrolysis is because uh, there is a lot of grass in Northern Ireland. about 80% of area is in grass, and probably they have the highest amount of anaerobic digesters in terms of number of anaerobic digestion units per area, about 80 to 19, just that much, and fully operational. Uh, so the reason why we looked at biomethane was, if we are to transition energy systems, then we also need to look at different other systems present in the local area. And Northern Ireland has a very heavy farming community compared to, let's say, rest of the UK. So any transition that takes place in Northern Ireland should look not just at energy, but at food systems as well. That was the one major point why we looked at biomethane and not actually heat pumps. The second reason is that Northern Ireland also has the most recent gas lines. So their gas lines are actually plastic based, so they can take biomethane, and the replacement of natural gas is much easier there compared to rest of the UK natural gas lines. About efficiency of biomethane plus pyrolysis, it was about 2 to 3 times the ratio. So how much you enter energy as an energy input and how much you get energy output was about 2 to 3 times was the energy output for the study that we did. And the other thing that I would like to mention is, we didn't do a study in just one region of Northern Ireland. We did for the whole of Northern Ireland, and then found out that if current natural gas use was to be replaced by biomethane, then it would be about 80% better. About whether we considered valorization of biochar, etc. Well, yes, we did consider, and the reason for that is, biomethane, when we just use for biomethane production and not actually for use of its byproducts, then can cause acidification and eutrophication, which is not really good. Like, sustainability should go beyond GHG emission saving. So we did work on that, and found out that uh, I can remember the eutrophication value was much lesser in the biomass in the pyrolysis process, like the case where we use biomethane plus pyrolysis. I don't remember the exact numbers. It was really better. So we did prevent eutrophication as well. And the major reason is, if you would have heard, Logniag is going through a lot of eutrophication problems right now. Most of the water bodies are going through eutrophication issues, even Ria Valley, because, well, we do eat uh, animal products. We do eat meat, we do eat eggs, and they all have animal waste, and that's why eutrophication is a major issue in most of the river bodies in the UK. So that answers your first question. And how scalable it is? Well, in the global south, I can say, well, most of the places in India already have anaerobic digestion plants, and it actually came from there. So
Right.
I know about India that we do use a lot of anaerobic digestion. The only thing is that it's more used for cooking. It's more localized than here. And to bring it to a scale where it could provide heating for houses. First, heating for houses, well, we do not need in much months, apart from maybe 3 to 4 months in most of the regions. But if the heating for houses was to be provided by biomethane in the global south, first it would need the infrastructure to support it, and it would need gas pipelines to work that much well. So the reason why biomethane is mostly used, or biogas is mostly used for cooking or localized purposes in global south, is because, well, it's more feasible. You can replace your cooking gas by biogas. I think that's my answer for it. To make it scalable, we need to provide infrastructure.
Sure. I mean, the idea is to decentralize energy. So far there are people in rural communities that can use it. At least that's their immediate need, which is to have access to clean cooking. So I think the technology works. But as a follow-up, I'm just curious now. Is that how does the carbon footprint of this integrated system compare to traditional fossil fuel of base each generation system over its full cycle or fuel life cycle? And are there like any ongoing monitoring strategies or metrics used to measure its long-term um sustainability impacts, particularly when you're looking at that's in terms of soil health, when
Yeah.
you're applying the resulting biochar. So what are there any metrics just to, of
Um,
course, we know
so
that, yeah,
So the study was a modeling study. Not all of Northern Ireland has got pyrolysis plants.
okay,
So of course they have got two or three maybe, but not all. So it was a modeling study on what would happen if pyrolysis was widely used. About the fact about how GHG emissions compare, let me just check a minute. It was a difference from 653 kilotons of CO2 equivalent in a business as usual scenario to minus 880. I think I should share my screen just a moment.
yeah, please do.
So in this figure, scenario one is business as usual, where you are not using any biomethane at all for heating. In scenario two, you use anaerobic digestion for biomethane production, but no pyrolysis. And scenario three is anaerobic digestion plus pyrolysis. So if you look at how the energy output varies, it's actually 6 times, and net energy ratio for the only anaerobic digestion is about 12. And if you look at global energy potential, global warming potential in the scenario one, which is business as usual, as in you were wasting all of the livestock waste and you were not doing anything with it, it's about 653 kilotons CO2 equivalent. And for scenario two, it's minus 879. And coming back to your previous question on eutrophication potential or how nutrient output would vary, in scenario one, you are losing about 109 tons of phosphorus equivalent, while in scenario three, you are losing only
Wow.
39 or 40. And I will just put the link in the chat.
Yeah, please do, because for some of our participants that would like to read more about the study, and if you would like to, if you can please share your maybe LinkedIn page or any kind of the best way to contact
Mm.
you for people that are um oh, there's a question before you go. There's a question from Muhammad. It says that I want to ask, is it effective to develop a biogas type green energy in India? Keep in mind that India has many population of animal like cow, in which could power up biogas reactor. Thank you. I think
Yes, that's a good question. And I think I would also like to mention biogas is only one of the processes which you could use for using biomass or livestock feedstock or waste. There are other processes as well which we should consider, which are like biochemical production,
mhm.
biorefinery production, and the reason for that is those can be much more efficient than biomethane sometimes. That's one reason. And second reason is producing materials out of a system is much more inherently sustainable than producing just energy. So if you look at how waste to energy or waste to material systems should function, they should first look at how materials could be produced. For example, what if we were to use chemicals out of livestock waste rather than through petroleum products? So not just biomethane, but we should look at more biorefinery processes as well, biochemicals as well, fermentation as well. When you do energy systems analysis or circular economy, you should not uh, try to just go with one solution for every region. You should look at what works best for every region. So for India, for such a big country, I would say not just biomethane, there should be other pathways as well that should be considered when going for circular economy.
Perfect. Thank you. Wonderful. Excellent presentation. Dr. Neha, thank you for honoring our invitation. If there are any questions in the Q&A, please, if you could please answer some of them if they're directed towards your presentation.